Hey everybody, Hank Linderman here. It is Monday, June 22nd. Boy, there's just so much going on in this world. It's almost impossible to keep track of. And here I am once again at Hi Mark Andes. How are you doing? I'm at Falls of Rough, Kentucky. And, I'm your Democratic nominee for Congress here in Kentucky's 2nd District. I see Mark Andes is here. I see Bill McNichol is here. And I'm so glad you all are here. We got a lot of things to talk about. Hi, Dennis. I'm the Democratic nominee for Congress here in Kentucky's 2nd District. And I don't have a primary, so I'm not going to be part of the shenanigans. Hi, Barbara. How are you? That are going to be going on tomorrow. We have a primary tomorrow. Hi, Jane. And the thing that's going on that's pretty frightening is that Kentucky normally has 3,700 polling places. Hi, Rich. How are you? But because of the pandemic, they've shut down all but 200 of them. So, for example, my little county of Grayson County. Hi, Randell. How are you? My little county of Grayson County is normally we have 12 or 13 polling places, and I was planning on riding a bicycle, 3-4 miles away to go vote, but there's only one polling place in Grayson County, and in fact, most of the counties. A total of 200. It's going to be this is going to be national news tomorrow. And so, before we go too much further with that, I want to tell you about former Congressman Mike Ward, who's been part of our campaign from the beginning, is going to be on KET tonight at 8 p.m. And let me see what the name of that show is. And he'll be commenting. And it will be it's called Kentucky Tonight. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern. Mike Ward will be on there. And he's going to talk about our campaign a little bit. So it'll be really nice to, if you can check in with him. But tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up in time to get to the polls at 6 a.m. Hi, Robin. Hi, Kathy. I'm going to get up early enough so that I've got a chance of voting. I spoke to the clerk today, and hi, Robin, and they had said, well, we did have reservations. You could make a reservation, but that really wasn't made clear. Hi, John Alma. John Alma, by the way, is from Warren County, and in Warren County, I understand they're organizing buses to be able to get people to go vote. Hi, Abby. How are you? Because the voting location in Warren County, and Warren is one of the more populated counties in the district. In fact, Bowling Green is the biggest city in the district. Hi, Carrie. Glad you're here. So I expect John Alma's right in the middle of the efforts to make sure people are about to vote. And, just to show you how ridiculous this is, the city of Louisville has 600,000 voters in it. And it's the largest group of black voters in the state of Kentucky, and they've got one polling place, and it's at the fairgrounds. So this is going to be very, very difficult, but it's going to be an exciting primary. Now, also, so you're aware, the results of this primary, of this Kentucky primary, probably will not be available for every bit of a week. And by the way, I want to let you know next Wednesday, 2 days from now, after I go live here, because I'm here every day, 3:30 p.m. Central, 4:30 Eastern, I'm going to be on the Terry Miners show, because everybody's going to want to talk about the election, but there won't be much to talk about except what it was like at the polls and that sort of thing, because the Secretary of State, I believe, has announced they will not be giving complete results until they've got complete results. They won't be giving partial results, which I think is maybe less than ideal. It seems to me they should be presenting results as soon as they've got them, and we could watch them change. Hi, Mike. How are you? There were a couple things I wanted to talk about, and one of the first ones I want to talk about is wages for working people. And, one of the things I talk about all the time, especially in the context, hi, Mary, how are you? In the context of the Contract for Rural and Working America, is that working people simply aren't paid enough. John Alma is, by the way, commenting on the voting in Warren County. They've got a place outside of town where everybody's going to have to vote, but there's no public transportation there. So I'm hearing that there's buses that are being arranged, voting buses. And I spoke with some folks from Butler County who are going to be part of helping drive people in. And John Alma, maybe I'll check with you later because I've got a big vehicle. I can put a bunch of people in it if you got work for me to do. Once I vote tomorrow, I could potentially do that. So anyway, let's go back to talking. Hi, Lee Foster. How are you? One of the things we talk about all the time is how little people are paid. And if you are one of those folks who is earning minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, and if you work a full schedule, hi Paul, if you work a full schedule, hi Suzanne, all you're going to earn is something like $15,080 in a year. So even doubling your pay, and even in a state like Kentucky, where the cost of living is quite low in Kentucky compared to other states, $30,000 is kind of bare minimum, and that's with you working 40 hours a week. In fact, for those that are working minimum wage, you need something like 10 or 12 additional weeks in the year just to be able to make it. And that's not right. People should be able to earn a decent living, a respectable living. With better pay, what they found out, I'm not sure where this is, I'm reading from an article, they're saying that when you pay people better, for example, hi Bill, how are you? And Suzanne, this was relating to nursing homes, and they found that if they raised their pay, the jobs became more attractive, so they had less employee turnover, and the patients benefited because there was more continuity in their care. In addition, better paid employees may have simply worked harder because they cared more about holding on to their jobs. If you're not being paid anything, why should you really, really care? Economists say they've been paid an efficiency wage. Employees become more productive when their wages are higher, and that's what they're finding. When the labor market was weakest, hi Marcia, how are you? Hi Bill. A higher minimum wage leads to bigger improvements in job performance. So in a period of economic distress, that's precisely when workers really want to hold on to their jobs. So the efficiency wage effect is large. Supporters of raising the minimum wage usually make their case based on fairness and equity. That's important, but since a higher minimum wage can boost the workforce productivity and save lives, there's a lot of good reasons for doing this. And one we don't mention is that when you raise wages, you also have raised taxes. If you pay people more money, they will, of necessity, be paying more money in taxes. Hi, Craig. I'm glad you're here. So the next thing I want to talk about is the amount of deaths that we've had. We are over 120,000 deaths due to the coronavirus. And there are a couple of stories. I think, let me look real quick. I think one of them was from the Daily Cause. Let's see, yeah. COVID-19 news, 90% of U.S. deaths were preventable. Wow. Now, let's dig into that a little bit. If we had reacted like other nations did, it looks like we could have saved as many as 90% of that 120,000 people. So if you've got friends or family members that passed away due to the coronavirus, that's a really terrible and sobering thing. By the way, Billy McNichol's there and reminding you to check out our new website. It's at hankforky.com. And also, we do need you to share these, especially as this goes into year. That's a great way you can help is share these Facebook Lives. We had another day where we got 1,000 views, and that's such a big deal, and I really appreciate your all's help on it. Well, anyway, I'm reading from a website called Stat News, and they say how many needless COVID-19 deaths were caused by delays in responding. And they're saying more than 120,000 people died. And they said it's not a hypothetical question. Hi, Roy, I'm glad you're here. You can do a direct comparison of how other nations did. And the ones that did really well are South Korea, Australia, Germany, Singapore, and so on. By studying this, it looks like 70 to 90 and even up to 99% of our deaths could have been prevented. There are three factors. First, they had to scale up the population sizes. Hi, Marie. How are you? Marie is visiting us from France. So everybody say hi to Marie. And hi, Mike Shannon Ford. First, they had to scale up. When you're comparing the United States with South Korea or Australia or these other nations, Germany, that did really well, you have to adjust for population difference because we are a much larger country. So they had to scale up the population sizes and therefore the COVID deaths and cases. In each of these other countries, 80% or more of the population live in urbanized, transmission-prone areas, similar to the U.S. And third, the pandemic took root earlier in these other countries, so they had even less time to deal with the difficulties of the virus. They had even less time to react, and they did a better job than we did. So I've got to the exponential viral spread, our delay in action was devastating. We had nearly 120,000 die in the first 4 months following the first 15 confirmed cases. Hi, Patty, I'm glad you're here. In the same period, or an equivalent period, Germany had only 8,863 casualties. And you scale that up from the German population of 83 million to compare it to America's 331 million, a U.S.-sized Germany would have only suffered 35,000 deaths. Well, that's significantly lower. So that's 70% saved lives. But that's the most conservative estimate. If you use South Korea, Australia, and Singapore, roughly 99% of our deaths would have been gotten rid of. So if you get a chance, please go ahead and look at this website. It's called Stat News. We had several reasons that we failed. President Trump, of course, ignored the early public warnings, the confidential and early public warnings from experts, and he acted far more slowly and inconsistently than South Korea, for example. They banned flights from China, but later permitted more than 40,000 travelers from China to enter the U.S. And from February through April, President Trump made dismissive and contradictory statements. Hi, John, I'm glad you're here. To which government agencies and the public paid close attention. I'm sure you remember early on we were told, don't wear masks. Now we're finding out that masks are a critical piece of it. State-by-state measures were rolled out piecemeal, and the problem there is that the federal government kind of gave up and passed it off to the states, and they certainly weren't prepared. And let's also not forget, President Trump had disbanded the pandemic response team of about 1,800 people, doctors and health workers and so on, who were going to help. We also had a big failure in testing. When we first found out about the coronavirus, the World Health Organization had tests that worked. They were willing to sell them for $5 a piece, and our own CDC said, no, we got this. And their first test just failed dramatically. So that added weeks and weeks of more delay. South Korea's decisive actions during this critical early window produced a dramatic disparity. I'm reading from this article. By mid-March, each of the two countries had suffered about 90 COVID-19 deaths, but throughout April, while a total of 85 South Koreans died from the disease, an average of more than 85 Americans per hour died. So they were 85 in a month, and we were 85 per hour. That's pretty extreme. And our administration, President Trump's administration, has made all kinds of excuses, and those carry on. They're blaming China, the World Health Organization, the CDC, former President Barack Obama, the media, and more. But other countries with the same information or even misinformation, according to President Trump, in the U.S., they took earlier decisive steps, and they were much more successful. So it shows there was astonishing effectiveness depending on the type of government you had. In a way, the pandemic was a test for our government, not just a test of our healthcare. It was a test of our government. Hi, Andy. How are you? Good to see you. And when you adopted the correct response early, you got great results. Our analysis shows, at the end of this is the money sentence, I think. Our analysis shows that with the same actions actually taken by other nations, large and small, from the East and the West, the U.S. could have prevented 70 to 99% of its COVID-19 deaths. This has been a needless tragedy. This is really the truth. It really is a needless tragedy. And I hope all of us will remember that. I'm sure you all saw that President Trump had a very difficult weekend after a couple of very difficult weeks. Between the Supreme Court legitimizing the concerns of LGBT citizens, they can no longer be fired for being gay or being lesbian or so on. I believe now churches can't deny employment to people because of their sexual orientation. So that was a massive blow. And then number two was that the Dreamers, the DACA kids, were given yet another extension. They completely rejected the government's filing. Now, the government may yet file again, but it'll be months before that, and certainly that won't be dealt with before the election. And then President Trump did his rally in Tulsa. And I watched a little bit of it and was quite surprised to see how poorly attended it was. We were also sure that this was going to be very well attended, as often his events are. But it turns out, first of all, his base is maybe not quite so unaware of the disease as we had thought, because they apparently decided it wasn't going to be a good idea to show up in an enclosed arena without face masks, or where face masks were optional. Hi, Rico, how are you? And I think also we found out that some K-pop fans, hi Barbara, some K-pop fans apparently trolled our troller-in-chief and signed up as if they were coming. Yeah, Billy McNichol says, shout out to the TikTok teens and the K-pop stans. So they apparently trolled the Republican Party into thinking there were 1 million people who wanted to come to their event. And they had even set up an overflow stage outdoors. They were expecting 40,000 people, and they got none. They shut that down. So there's a wonderful picture. I feel bad for the guy, but, in reality, he's been making a lot of our lives miserable. There's a picture of President Trump walking in off the West Lawn after he got off the helicopter. Hi, John. How are you? And he looks completely dejected. Well, that's where we are. I was going to play a song today, but I had technical difficulties again. Now you all will be so pleased. This will really excite some of you. There's a new version of the software. It's just been released today, so I'm going to install that, and hopefully that will clear up things. So, hi Sue, how are you doing? So I'm not going to be able to do a song today, but I'll do one tomorrow if I'm able to, although I've got a vote tomorrow. So depending on what a nightmare that turns out to be, and we'll see how that goes. So hopefully I'll see you all tomorrow. I'll have a report about what it was like to vote in Grayson County at the one polling location. That should be very, very interesting. So thank you all for being here. Also, I've been speaking with some musicians that are going to start performing on this. We've tried to do this live, and there's just not really a good way to do it. So, but I've spoken with several musicians, some from California, some from Texas, some from Louisville, some from the state of Kentucky. And hi, Gene, how are you? So we're going to start adding music here very, very soon. Please do me a favor. Oh, Roy, thank you. That's very sweet. I really appreciate that. Look, I said this last week when I did my speech about the seesaw. This is something I truly believe. The people who really maintain a lot of control of our lives, the very, very wealthy, the very, very powerful. I'm not talking about people with a couple of million or even $10 million. I'm talking about people like Jeff Bezos. I'm talking about Mark Zuckerberg and so on. Folks at Google. They have such a dramatic effect on all of our lives, and they are able, very powerful corporations are able to pay for our congresspeople to vote the way they want them to vote. So one of the things I said is we need people whose obligation and responsibility is to the people, we the people, right? So as a candidate, I don't take corporate contributions. I do take some contributions from some unions, but it's not like unions are completely in charge of our society, and I would argue that we were better off when we had stronger unions. Anyway, so I need your help, and if you're willing to visit the website and contribute a little bit of money, that really helps. But what we have, they have money. We have people. And they are not afraid, the Koch brothers, for example. They're not afraid of Donald Trump. They're not afraid of Andy Bashir. They're not afraid of Barack Obama. They're not afraid of AOC. But they are afraid of us. They are afraid of people that are willing to work together. People that are willing to put in the time to volunteer for a campaign, to make sure that people vote, to make sure that people are involved. So we've got several months now. We've got something like 18 weekends to make a difference in our country. And it's not just going to happen. It's not going to happen if you let other people do it. We really need everybody to get involved in here and help in the way that you can, whichever way that you can. For some people, it's the website is hank4ky.com. And so hank4ky.com. Any help is appreciated. When you share these videos, that makes a big difference. Robin, Billy just put up our website, so you'll be able to see in the comments. Just click on that, and there's a contribute page right there. So thank you all for being here. I love you all, and I'll be back tomorrow, depending on what goes with voting. But one way or the other, I'll be live tomorrow. And folks, this is change. This is what it's like. Don't get upset about this. I guess I'm old enough to have seen when society gets unstable and there's people marching in the streets. We went through all this with the Vietnam War. This is very, very similar to that time. And what comes after that is change that we have been working for a long, long time. So this is the process. It's not pretty, but it's working. So hang on to your hats and let's get involved and let's do this. Like I say, it gets me excited. I don't get depressed about it because I can see the change is coming. And especially the more of us get involved and help. So thank you all for being here, and I guess I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much. Okay, take care. Bye. Have a great day.